All right. Hello, everybody. Zaxter99 here. Guys, what you're looking at on the screen isn't a video game. I know I'm a big video game channel, but every once in a while I do make a video about my beloved Dallas Cowboys. I've been a Dallas Cowboys fan since I was a young child, back at 6 years old. I remember just eagerly anticipating every weekend getting out of school and waiting for Sunday or maybe Monday Night Football and just anxiously awaiting the Cowboys game, even though the Cowboys weren't that good back when I was a kid. And they got even worse back as Tom Landry began to fade and essentially get really old. But I was still a big time Cowboys fan, and of course, it was inherited from my father and my grandfather, who were from Texas and were big Cowboys fans their entire life. But I'll never remember, or but I'll never forget, guys, the championship game, the catch, Dwight Clark catching that last second touchdown pass from Joe Montana in the championship game. And I think it was 1981. I was only but 9 years old at the time. And I remember watching that game so much anticipation and excitement to watch my Cowboys, who I believed would win that game and go to the Super Bowl that year. And I remember that last second soul crushing touchdown, that amazing catch that Dwight Clark had to catch that amazing pass and win the game in the last minutes or seconds of that game. It crushed my heart. I think that was my first heartbreak ever as a young kid. I cried. I stood there screaming at the TV, my dad's old TV and stuff like that, screaming and hollering at it. I was so angry that he caught that pass, that my Cowboys didn't win. And I remember my dad had went over to see my grandpa and, talk about the game or whatever he did for 2 or 3 hours after that game on that Sunday afternoon. And I remember my dad came back in, and I still remember him seeing me still just fuming and walking and pacing around the living room, tears in my eyes. And my dad took his hand, put it on my shoulder, and he's like, "Son," he says, "heartbreak is a part of life." He said, "You're in for much more heartbreak throughout your life. This is a good learning lesson for you. You know, it's tough. You got to move on. You got to go to school tomorrow. You got to just keep on trucking, So something like that was what my dad said to me. Important words from a father to his son. And I mean, my dad was a Cowboys fan as well. He was feeling the pain as well, but, wise words coming from him. And I have remained true to the Cowboys, throughout my life. I haven't been a fair weather fan and switched teams to the best team, every year like so many people do. I remember all the quarterbacks that the Cowboys went through before they got Tony Romo. And Tony Romo was a hell of a quarterback, but when he got hurt and was replaced by Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott's amazing first year showing, that actually made me cry again. When Tony Romo went up to the stadium and basically gave his speech to say, "Hey, I'm stepping down. You know, I'm going to give this to our young Dak Prescott because he's proven it. He's proven that he's earned a spot as a Cowboys starting quarterback." That was some of the most heartfelt, true, and passionate words I think I've ever heard. And that was from Tony Romo when he stepped down and let Dak Prescott take charge of the team. When a lot of people didn't know what was going to happen, when Tony Romo came back from that injury, when Tony Romo came back from that injury back in 2016, I think a lot of people thought that, Dak Prescott would go back to the bench and Romo, who had been the leader for so many years, would go right back to doing what he'd done. And, would there be a quarterback controversy or whatever? But Romo wouldn't have any of it. Romo showed his true personality and how unselfish he was when he basically kept a quarterback controversy from even happening and just stepped down to let Dak Prescott, the young leader, take over. And things have worked out well for Tony Romo since then. I mean, now he's one of the best NFL announcers, and he is making really good money at doing something I truly believe he loves. So it's all worked out. But guys, I want to just go ahead and talk for a minute about the absolute insanity of some of you fans out there, some of you people who actually want Dak Prescott to not be re-signed by the Dallas Cowboys. He turns 31 this month, and he has been nothing but a winner since he started for the Cowboys in 2016. And that's why I chose this image right here of Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, there's nobody, I don't think there's anybody out there that's going to argue that Dak Prescott is a leader, a true leader. How can you argue against Dak Prescott's desire to win, his passion on the field? That guy is out there, and he has been out there, giving it all, making flips to try to get that extra yard or try to get in the end zone, doing everything he can to scramble and extend the play for just another second so he can get a wide receiver wide open. There is no doubt by any true football fan that Dak Prescott's passion for the game is beyond putting behind any kind of number. If anybody remembers in the 2020 season when Dak Prescott broke his ankle and he had that bone sticking out, and Dak Prescott is such a winner in that moment, he knew that he had effed up his leg. He knew that. And when he went down, and I don't know if many of you remember the images of Dak Prescott desperately trying to stay in the game to try to win that game. Who remembers the images of Dak Prescott basically pounding his foot into the ground, hoping to pop that broken bone back into place, hoping that he could fix it by pounding it into the turf, probably doing more damage than any good, but he was desperate to try to somehow quickly fix it and be able to stay in the game. How many NFL players would truly do that? I know there's a lot of passionate NFL players, but I'm just saying, if you look at Dak Prescott, if you watch him every week like I have, if you watch the Cowboys every week and as many football games as I have throughout my life, there's just simply no way you can deny Dak Prescott's passion for the game and his desire to win. And that's what I'm here to show you guys. Now, I know a lot of people will say Dak Prescott hasn't proven he's a leader in the playoffs. Guys, every year, nearly half the teams in the NFL make the playoffs. And every year, there's only one team that's going to make it to the Super Bowl and win that game. Only one. And in the playoffs, it's basically one loss and you're out. Dak Prescott has won 2 of those playoff games, and I think he's lost 5 at this point. But when you are in the playoffs facing the best teams out there, and you have clutch games like the Cowboys have had twice against San Francisco, I know, and last year against a very young and hungry Green Bay Packers, who basically put the Cowboys defense out of the game. The whole Cowboys defense and Dan Quinn just essentially gave up, I would say, by the second quarter. Yes, Dak Prescott threw a couple of interceptions, but Dak Prescott wasn't playing on defense. Dak Prescott wasn't the one allowing the Packers to rush for, just crazy yards every single play. Dak Prescott only plays one spot. And even if Dak Prescott had played a perfect game, Dallas still would have got beat by 2 touchdowns last year. I do not blame Dak Prescott at all for what happened in that game. In fact, I put it on Dan Quinn and the defense not being ready. The Cowboys simply weren't ready at all. If you're going to put it on anybody, put it on the coaching. Put it on Dan Quinn. Put it on, the coaching, Mike McCarthy, whatever you want to do. But you can't pin that loss on Dak Prescott. And those of you that pin that entire loss on Dak Prescott, I don't know if you're blind or what, but Dak Prescott did not lose that game for the Cowboys. That was a whole coaching screw-up. That was the coaching not getting the team prepared for the game. The defense, like I said, the defense looked like they just were gassed and completely gave up by the second quarter. And that's coaching. That's not the quarterback. That's coaching. But what I want to talk about here, guys, right now is I want to talk about proof that Dak Prescott is a legitimate winner, and the Cowboys would be absolutely crazy to let this guy walk at such a young age. Nothing has ever happened before in the history of the NFL for a quarterback of Dak Prescott's stature to be let go and to hit free agency. It's never happened, ever. Not with a quarterback as good as Dak Prescott is and as proven as Dak Prescott is. What am I talking about here, guys? Well, let's go ahead and talk about one of the greatest legendary quarterbacks of all time. Let's talk about Peyton Manning. I don't think anybody thinks for a second that Peyton Manning was a loser, as so many people call Dak Prescott. So many Cowboys fans are screaming that Trey Lance needs to start. Trey Lance? What the hell are you guys smoking? Trey Lance has only started 8 games in the NFL with the 49ers. In his last season, he played 2 games and had a 55 quarterback rating. Are you absolutely insane? Trey Lance is not your answer, guys. So if not Dak Prescott, who the hell are you going to go to? Who are you going to go to? Cooper Rush? Yes, Cooper Rush has had some good games playing a backup role and has won some big games with the Cowboys when given that opportunity. But Cooper Rush is not the answer for a full-time, full season-long quarterback. Cooper Rush is not even half as good as Dak Prescott. It's not even close. Probably not even 1/4 as good. What I want to do, guys, is I want to go ahead and look at somebody who was good. And I want to go ahead and show you here Peyton Manning. Let's go ahead and take a look at Peyton Manning's first 8 years in the NFL, because Dak Prescott had 8 years now in the NFL. Remember, he was hurt in that 5th game of the 2020 season, so he didn't play most of that season. And he's been hurt as well a few other games. So he didn't play full season games like Peyton Manning did. I mean, you can't argue Peyton Manning's toughness. But when we look at the overall quarterback rating for Peyton Manning over that entire 8 years of his first 8 years, now he ended up playing like 15 years in the NFL, but this is all with Indianapolis. Peyton Manning had a quarterback rating of 93.5. Let's go ahead and take a look at Dak Prescott by comparison, guys. Dak Prescott, 93.5 quarterback rating over his first 8 years, 99. A full 5.5 points over Peyton Manning. And when you're talking about overall quarterback rating for 8 years, 5.5 points in the rating is massive. Massive numbers. Granted, Dak Prescott doesn't have quite as many yards. I think that Peyton Manning had 32,000. Dak Prescott's at 29,000. Didn't throw quite as many yards. Didn't have quite as many touchdowns, but didn't have nearly as many interceptions, and that's why his quarterback rating is higher. People talk about how Dak Prescott is an interception machine. Peyton Manning threw way more interceptions than Dak Prescott has thrown in their first 8 years. Again, Dak Prescott, 99 quarterback rating. Peyton Manning, 93.5 over their first 8 years. Now, I am not going to sit here and tell you that Dak Prescott is better than Peyton Manning. Of course not. I am not that guy. I am not going to say that. But you can look at these stats and show that Dak Prescott is a winner when his numbers are beating out Peyton Manning of a substantial time period. We're not just saying, hey, Dak Prescott was better than Peyton Manning this, half of the season, these 8 games. No, we're talking about their full first 8 years, because Dak Prescott has played 8 full years in the NFL now. We're comparing the full 8 years to Peyton Manning's first 8 years, and I think that's a true comparison. How about this for numbers, guys? We talk about Dak Prescott, and a lot of people may say, well, Dak Prescott isn't a team leader. He hasn't helped his team win as much as Peyton Manning helped his team win, And a lot of people might be saying that. Well, let's look at the numbers again. Let's look at the win rate. Guys, I did the math manually. I did this 2 times for each quarterback to make sure that my numbers were correct. And when you pull up the information here, guys, what we have is the win rates for both quarterbacks their first 8 years. Peyton Manning had 80 wins and 48 losses because he played every single game his first 8 years. Dak Prescott hasn't played quite as many games because of the injuries that he did have, but he has 73 wins, 41 losses, and the win rate is actually 64% for the team compared to 62.5% for Peyton Manning. Tell me that Dak Prescott, looking at these numbers, isn't a vital part of the Cowboys team. If he's not a vital part of helping the Cowboys win. The Cowboys have went 12-4 their last 3 seasons in a row. And that has been helped substantially by Dak Prescott and him helping the Cowboys get so many of those wins. Dak Prescott is a leader. Nobody's going to argue that. Anybody would be an absolute fool to argue Dak Prescott's passion for the game. And again, to those of you, as I would say, either delusional fans or people living on a fantasy or whatever that think Trey Lance is going to come in and make a difference and be the Cowboys' hero, I don't know what the hell you're smoking. But when we look at Trey Lance, like I said, he only played 8 games so far. He has 8 games, half a season of total games. His first season, he did all right, a rating of 97.3, but his last 2 games, he only had a quarterback rating of 55. He threw no touchdowns and 1 interception in those 2 games, which is a big reason the 49ers bailed on him and realized that he was a massive project. Now, I'm not saying the Cowboys shouldn't give Trey Lance, an opportunity to prove himself here in the preseason games coming up in August, next month. Absolutely, they should give Trey Lance every opportunity to, make the backup quarterback, to potentially make a starting role for the Cowboys or somebody else. But Trey Lance is not going to come in and start winning more games than Dak Prescott, or come in and get to the playoffs and then do what Dak Prescott hasn't and take the Cowboys to the Super Bowl. Anybody thinking that is beyond delusional. Again, guys, we have numbers here showing that Dak Prescott has helped his team even more the first 8 years than legendary quarterback Peyton Manning. We have numbers here to show that Dak Prescott's numbers, game in and game out, through all his regular season games, has a higher quarterback rating than Peyton Manning. In some situations, guys, stats do not lie. These stats do not say that Dak Prescott is a better leader or a better quarterback than Peyton Manning. But I think what they do say is, to all you idiots out there who think the Cowboys should not re-sign Dak Prescott and go with Trey Lance or Cooper Rush or whatever the hell, shit you're smoking, you guys are high as hell. Dak Prescott, if they want to win, they need to re-sign Dak Prescott, and I, for one, believe they will. Dak Prescott is going to be re-signed, I would say, by the end of July, and if not by the end of July, probably within the first 1 or 2 weeks of training camp in August. I'm going to say right now, guys, I'll put it out there, I think the Cowboys are going to re-sign Dak Prescott by mid-August, probably sometime this month in July, to be honest. And then when they do that, I think they're going to immediately tie up CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee Lamb's going to get his $33-34 million a year, whatever it's going to be. And those of you talking about Dak Prescott's going to get $60 million a year, guys. There's no doubt about it. If not, maybe even a little bit more. It's probably going to be 60, though. If it's not 60, it'll be 57.5, 58, but it's going to be damn near $60 million a year. I would expect a 4-year deal for probably $235, $240 million for Dak Prescott, maybe 4 years, $230 million, something like that. And it's going to be up there. It's going to be over $55 million a year, because Trevor Lawrence just got 55. And do we really need to look at the stats between Trevor Lawrence and Dak Prescott to show how big of a difference they are? Yeah, we're not even going to go there, because Dak Prescott's stats and numbers would destroy Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence just got 55. So you guys are absolutely delusional if you don't think Dak Prescott is going to or deserves $60 million a year right now. So that's what it is, guys. Again, I fully expect the Cowboys will re-sign Dak Prescott by mid-August, and I will eat my words and come back and say I was wrong if this doesn't happen. But I would expect the Dak Prescott to re-sign for around $60 million a year before mid-August, if not, probably July, sometime, probably the end of this month. I would expect CeeDee Lamb to be wrapped up. I'm going to say he's going to get $33 or $34 million a year. He'll probably do a 4 or 5 year contract, and they're definitely going to wrap up Lamb for sure. He's one of the best receivers in the league. And I expect those of you wondering about Micah Parsons, I think the Cowboys are going to end up waiting on Micah Parsons, and they'll probably, attack his contract sometime next year. They'll know in the Cowboys office and Jerry Jones and how they work, Stephen Jones. I would expect them to wait till the very last minute next year, and it'll probably be about this time next year the Cowboys will finally wrap up Micah. But that's my prediction, guys. And I just wanted to go ahead and make a video to make my heart be known and make it be known that Dak Prescott is not the absolute scrub or the failure of a quarterback that so many of you idiots basically are screaming. Because let's be real, I'm not saying everybody's an idiot that says that, but what I'm saying is you guys are being brainwashed. So many of you guys are being brainwashed by all the TV shows and sports media, all the ESPN shows that always have all these people talking about what trash Dak Prescott is and how he can't win the big games and how the Cowboys should move on from Dak. And but they have no answers about, okay, the Cowboys get rid of Dak Prescott, who are they going to go to? They never give that answer. And the fans, the Cowboys fans, they say, "Oh, Dak is trash. The Cowboys should move on." But those people, they never say who who the Cowboys should move on to. You're going to get rid of one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And would I say he's one of the top five? Probably not. Dak Prescott right now is probably anywhere between 6 and 8, I would say, as best quarterback. He's definitely, I'm not going to sit here and say that Dak Prescott's better than Mahomes or better than other quarterbacks. I do think he's better than Jalen Hurts. I know that was a big question asked on one of the ESPN shows a couple of days ago. Who would you take, Dak Prescott or Jalen Hurts? Who's a better quarterback? Dak Prescott, I think, even last season proved that he was a better quarterback. And he's a better leader than Jalen Hurts. No question about it. But Dak Prescott, guys, he's here to stay. I hate to say it. All you fans that think the Cowboys are going to move on from Dak and Dak's going to find a new team, or maybe you're a Raiders fan or something like that, and you're hoping they can snatch Dak Prescott in the offseason, it's not going to happen. Dak Prescott is going to be re-signed by the Cowboys here in the next month or so. Wait for it. You heard it here first, guys. Sure, and comment down below. We'll see you in the next video, everybody. Take care.